Hardly Sound is brought to you by Sabrina Q. Mikan, dedicated to highlighting the life stories of musicians and artists who enrich the culture of Austin, Texas. Real Ale Brewing Company. Real Ale incorporates 100% malted grain, domestic and imported hops, and crystal clear water to create unique recipes. Find Real Ale all over Texas at your favorite bars, restaurants, and stores. Real Ale Brewing Company. Handcrafted ales from the Texas Hill Country. Kong Screen Printing. Kong Screen Printing specializes in high-quality art design, screen-printed apparel, and paper prints for bands, businesses, nonprofit organizations, schools, and sports leagues. Kong Screen Printing. Information at kongscreenprinting.com. A generous donation from Brad and Maggie Markham. And the Hardly Sound Alliance.
Boys were coming toward us, 3 boys, running after the ball. I shook, I was shaking. I would fall because these boys, oh, these boys, lean muscles and throats scratched with shouting boys. Soft waves of unkempt hairs, black-haired boys, dirt under fingernails, skin stained dark. Boys with ripped fabric from playing hard. These boys, where did they come from? These boys running toward us.
Courtney's a hell of a writer. This particular short story is filled with rich sensory details, exists in a fully realized universe, and is centered around an intense scene that involves the unbuttoning of a blouse. It's fantastic. It speaks to my own biases that it surprised me to learn that a writer of this caliber is from a town with a population of about 2,000 people.
Past. Oh, damn! Queen of Pentacles, that is a powerful card. Opulence, generosity, security, magnificence, and liberty. Those are good words.
Oh, for the record, my reading had words like reversal, degradation, and destruction. Yeah. I'll let you guess who had the happier childhood.
My brother and my sister and I, we were just like, we lived like on a creek, and in the summer it was pretty much like free reign, and we just like run up and down it and like go fishing, and lots of sunburns and cockleburrs and stuff.
Nothing is ever as cut and dried as that, of course. There's a reason Courtney doesn't live in her hometown anymore.
Small towns aren't as like wholesome and like, I don't know, idyllic as people like kind of think that they can be. Not to say that they're bad, but just like a lot of stuff that people don't talk about. Like there's a lot of racism, and there's like just as much crime there. When it says opulence, generosity, and security, I don't necessarily think it's talking about riches. I think it's more of like the relationships that we have. You know, Erin's like my best friend, so.
Erin is her sister and also a member of the Villettes. The truth is, for all the, let's say, philosophical differences that Courtney and Erin have with their hometown, I imagine there's a comfort in being able to occasionally go back to the house they grew up in. Some of us aren't so lucky.
When I was working in a hotel, I was working the graveyard shifts, and I just decided to bring my guitar up there one night, and this song came out.
This is actually one of the first songs Courtney ever brought to me. I remember hearing it and thinking like, wow, you know, with the counterpoint and everything, it was really interesting, super cool. You know, when I write a song, it's just kind of like chords and words, but this seemed like a really like well plotted out song, and I was impressed.
I think that it really shows off Courtney's writing skills.
When I write songs, it's like very much based on the words, and I sort of like shape the music around that. I haven't like actually listened to the lyrics in a long time. But yeah, it's all about England, everything in there. But I didn't want to just say it was about England, so I made it sound like a love song. And so this is all about like remembering things and wanting things that you used to have.
I think first and foremost, before we even really were in a band together, we sort of figured that our voices sounded really good together, even though they sound different. Like if you hear me sing on my own, if you hear Courtney sing on her own, it's completely different. But for some reason, when we sing together, it sounds like kind of one voice, I guess.
She sings the harmonies so beautifully. And her voice goes down like butter. I always think that.
For the most part, it's like everyone does their own thing in their like room, secluded, and then we bring it together in practice.
I think it sounds so great with the drums too. That's like a new thing for us, and it sounds so awesome.
I love Katie's piano part.
I never wrote any keyboard parts ever in my life until I was in this band, and I don't know that I would have if Courtney hadn't kind of, I don't know. She does a good job of making you feel like you can do something.
Also, I'm really glad we have Katie in the band. Listening to her piano part right now. She always comes up with really cool parts.
These are just like some of the best people in the world. Like, I love those girls so much. Gives me everything to believe in.
Presents, gifts, gratification. Another account says attention, vigilance. Now is the accepted time. Present prosperity, etc.
Well, you know, how you were saying you don't have that childhood home anymore. Like, I do, and I feel really lucky that I do. Like, my parents live in the house that I grew up in. I'm so glad that I can go back there, you know. My friends, most of my friends, their parents have, you know, moved or are going to move from their childhood home or whatever. And like, I guess that's pretty normal, that's pretty standard, but to me it seems like it would be like totally devastating.
I think some people will always move away from home, even if their homes are as seemingly perfect as Katie's.
When I moved down here, I was like, yeah, no, just be a musician, it'll be so great. But I'm afraid of everything, like I said, so I never really did it.
Then she found Courtney.
She came over here and played me one of, I guess she had sort of just written this song. And she was like, oh, I think I want some harmonies on this, what do you think? And once I like got over being afraid, it felt like pretty organic, you know? It was just like, yeah, all right, let's do this.
Not that Courtney or anyone else could wipe out all of her anxiety and self-doubt.
I used to have like, oh God, I'm getting like really personal. I used to have like really bad anxiety kind of troubles. Where I was just terrified all the time of nothing. I mean, it was particular things, but nothing rational, you know. I was just like, I would wake up in the middle of the night every single night, like multiple times, like gasping for breath because even in my sleep I was afraid that I stopped breathing.
Don't forget what you said.
It certainly doesn't help that she carries around this memory.
And like, I guess also like I have completely like screwed up before. The one thing that I really blew was my friend asked me to sing at his wedding. And I just bombed. Oh God, it was so awful. I even had like the lyrics on the ground and I just like couldn't process. I was like just sheer terror going on, like no thought really happening. So I couldn't like make the words come out of my mouth and my hands were shaking, so I couldn't really play guitar either. And it was just so bad. Oh man, I still to this day when I hear that song, it like makes me cringe.
Katie is a hell of a songwriter. I asked her to play me one of her songs, and she chose an older
I
one.
might end up bailing on this song. Okay. Shall I start? Okay.
Eyelash bats and bargain boots. I took you out to breakfast. My pallor is shocking, my knuckles are cracking, but boy, you still look good.
It's strange, isn't it? How people with such obvious talent and ability can be racked with such insecurity. I think for some of us, it boils down to this. Everything means everything. There are no small performances, no mistake that goes unnoticed, no failure that is forgivable. Of course, that's ridiculous. The simple truth is, everyone will mess up a chord once in a while.
Blew it.
All you can change is how you react to it.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Go through the crowd, I'll take my time. You're shaking hands, I'm wringing mine. Where there is hope, there's one to blame. When you are gone, I feel the same. Needless to say, I'm coming home alone tonight. Though you're the one who knows, you're the only one who knows. Oh, I'm counting words to pass the time.
I lived in Champaign, Illinois with my mom before I moved to Austin. This was right after college. I worked at a distribution center of a shipping company and played online poker. I was good at both jobs. I had a lot of time to myself, so I watched about 3 movies a day. There was this video rental place called That's for Entertainment. I wanted to work there so badly, but instead I worked at a distribution center of a shipping company and played online poker. I was good at both jobs. My mom and I lived in a small apartment. She would get mad when I didn't do the dishes. I never did the dishes.
I'll be the one who hopes you stay. But after you,
I managed to fit most of my belongings into my Honda Fit, which, contrary to popular belief, is the best car ever manufactured. I stopped by my mom's salon to say goodbye. She cried, but I somehow managed not to. I didn't want to seem weak. We said goodbye, and I started my 15-hour drive to Austin. She called me a few minutes later and told me to go back to the apartment. She said to look under her bed. Look for a shoebox, she told me. I went back to the apartment and found the box. It was filled with money. She had been saving up for a trip to Korea. She demanded that I take all of it. I felt weak.
Daughter, at that point didn't have a name, was whisked off to the neonatal intensive care unit with a quote viable. So then the question was, when does it?
She's like my best friend. But yeah, I would say we're pretty close.
Well, it's good you said that because she said you were her best friend.
Oh, yay! We're on the same page.
Aaron and Courtney are from Glen Rose, Texas.
The land that we live on has been in our family since at least mid-1800s. There's so much wrong that people think is okay there, and it took me a lot longer to realize it than it did Courtney. I like it for the fact that it's where I grew up and I have good memories there, but there's just no way I could ever really live there again.
I wondered how both Aaron and Courtney managed to find their way out.
A lot of it is our parents, and especially our dad, I think, because our dad was like a hooligan. And our mom was always telling us, you have to get out of here. You're not going to stay here. You're going to go to school somewhere else.
And so they did.
and I will be carried away.
But nothing is ever as cut and dried as that.
Won't stand still.
Your home is your home, even if it isn't always somewhere you want to be.
Yeah, when I first started going to school, for like the first month, I would get anxiety about walking around campus and seeing like all these people I didn't know, because growing up in Glen Rose, there's like between 2,000 and 4,000 people that live there, and so you hardly ever see a face you don't know. It was really scary and I didn't like it, and I was like, I gotta go back. I talked to my mom and I was like, she convinced me to give it another semester, and I was like, okay, and I did, and eventually it's like kind of awesome to realize there's all these people living a different life than you.
But even if you manage to find a way out, even if you go to the other side of the world, it seems inevitable that you'll find yourself back home.
I graduated from college. I had lived abroad, and I had just come back a few months before. And like when I first got back, I was really happy to be back because I like really missed my family when I was gone. And like when I was in England, it was just like a fairy tale. And coming back from that is quite a wake-up call.
You meet people with stories, real stories. You go on grand adventures. You shake off the weight of your past. Then what?
A card of memories, end of the past. For example, reflecting on childhood, happiness, enjoyment, but coming rather from the past, things that have vanished.
But of course, some things you can't shake. Courtney lost someone close,
She was like a second mom to me.
her best friend's mom.
Looking back on it is just kind of strange, and it's also, it just like hits you at weird times. Like, I know that everyone that's lost someone like feels like this, but just like, wow, I can't like talk to that person, you know? And especially for Erica, you know, she's like, my mom's never gonna be at my wedding, and she doesn't get to see me graduate from law school and stuff, which is happening right now.
And Katie, well, I'll let her tell you.
He passed me a note that said he had a gun, and he wanted me to give him all the money I had. This is actually the part where I got like most terrified. Well, I was reading the note, and I kind of couldn't believe it. I kept kind of shaking my head and like starting over. I was like, wait. Let me start from the beginning. So he asked for all the money, and I looked down, and I only had like one $100 bill and like 3 50s, then a bunch of 20s and 10s and 1s, you know? And I was like, oh my God, this guy's gonna think I'm like holding out on him or something. They caught him a little while later, and he had robbed like 13 banks or something.
Some things you can't shake, but you have to keep pushing on anyway. What else is there to do?
I never knew that I could love an animal so much. It's kind of a big responsibility, you know, and we're both like, okay, we can do this. And that's kind of nice to know that about yourself.
It's almost like everything gets torn down and then like put together in a different way that's stronger, hopefully. And
my older brother is a comedian and an actor. He does a lot of improv comedy. And there's kind of like a lot of philosophy behind it, where it's like, first of all, you have to like trust your teammates with your life, basically. But one of the things that they say is like, you have to say like yes and to anything anyone says.
Well, it's fortunate that Katie's adopted this philosophy, because I totally made her play the song she blew at her friend's wedding in front of all of us. Was that mean? After our studio session, Courtney, Aaron, and the newest member of the band, Catherine, sat down in front of Katie.
So, what's the name of the song again?
It's That's How Strong My Love Is. I played it at my friend's wedding at his request, and I was honored, and I wanted it to be good so bad, but it was just awful. I blew it. And I still feel bad, and this was years ago. I'm getting all weird.
When you're ready.
All right. Okay.
Fire is the sun, way up there. I go with love most everywhere. I'll be the moon when the sun goes down, just to let you know that I'm still around. That's how strong my love is. Oh, that's how strong my love is. That's how strong my love is, baby.
My mom moved to Austin a couple years after I did. This was an annoying development. It's hard to build up an image of yourself as a self-made man if your mom cuts your hair. Granted, she's a professional hairstylist, but you understand what I'm saying. But this attitude changed when I was let go from my first real job. After my last day, I went to the salon where my mom was working. I sat down and she started cutting my hair. She asked me how work was going. The tears fell despite my best efforts. She wiped them off, turned a little towards her coworkers, and said in a slightly too loud voice, "These damn allergies, they're so bad in this town." See, people like that make wherever we are home. People like that remind us of this simple truth. Everyone messes up a chord once in a while.
That's how strong my love is, baby.
All you can change is how you react to it.
That's how strong my love is. That's how strong my love is.
Thanks, guys.
Hardly Sound is brought to you by Sabrina Q. Mikan, dedicated to highlighting the life stories of musicians and artists who enrich the culture of Austin, Texas. Real Ale Brewing Company. Real Ale incorporates 100% malted grain, domestic and imported hops, and crystal clear water to create unique recipes. Find Real Ale all over Texas at your favorite bars, restaurants, and stores. Real Ale Brewing Company. Handcrafted ales from the Texas Hill Country. Kong Screen Printing. Kong Screen Printing specializes in high-quality art design, screen-printed apparel, and paper prints for bands, businesses, nonprofit organizations, schools, and sports leagues. Kong Screen Printing. Information at kongscreenprinting.com. A generous donation from Brad and Maggie Markham. And the Hardly Sound Alliance.